The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit givestarquest.com. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to The Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. Joining me today on the panel is Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Dom.
So we're going to be tackling an interesting topic. This is kind of a little bit out of left field, I think. I mean, it's just kind of an unusual... I haven't heard anyone else really talking about this, at least from this angle, and it's the ethics of ambient computing. And I don't know if I before I started talking about this, if I'd ever heard this term, anyone else use this term, but ambient computing is sort of the idea of, if you've ever had an occasion where you're talking to a friend about a product and, a dog food, online maybe, or in person, and then you start seeing ads for dog food or that sort of thing. Or even if it's not like talking out loud in a conversation when you think your phone is spying on you, but even just like, I've purchased shoes on Amazon and I start seeing ads for shoes everywhere because I've been engaged in this transaction. Or have you ever had your smart speaker, like your Echo or your HomePod or your Google Chrome home thing, Chrome Home. I forget what it's called. Google Home.
Nest. Is it Nest, right? Or no? Yeah,
no,
I don't know which one it is anymore.
To be fair, Google changes the names of their products a lot. So anyway, whatever the Google smart speaker is, it lights up unexpectedly. You just kind of sitting there talking with someone and suddenly it lights up like you've woke it up. And you're like, what do you want? It's like when you have a little toddler wanders into the room in the middle of the night, it's like,
right.
Yes. Can I help you?
Who summoned you?
Exactly. Or, your phone predicts your destination before you've even chosen it. You open up like the Maps app and it's like, oh, did you want to go here? Yes. Or your smartwatch, it's time to stand. Yeah. You should stop and breathe, that sort of thing. And so many of these things are things we know that they're going to do. Like I know that my watch has the Breathe app. I turned it off after a while because it was kind of silly, but I know my watch has a thing that wants me to stand 12 times a day and once an hour or something like that. So it's not that we don't know these things, but they're just kind of there watching, ready to take action, to nudge us, to tell us to do things. So, what it boils down to is we know it would be too much to say we no longer, but often we're not asking our computers for help. That's what we used to do all the time. That's how computers worked. You'd walk across the room, you sit at the keyboard, and you would do a thing to it. Increasingly, computers are inserting themselves into our lives. Like, hey, did you want to do this? It seems like this would be the time for this. And frankly, anyone who owns an Amazon Echo, this is like, that is the pinnacle of it, because it's always like, hey, did you know you could buy this? It's the most obvious annoying one.
It's not, I would say it's not as insidious as some of the others, but only because I don't know that they've actually figured out how to make it that way yet. I think we've all just kind of given it a pass for being stupid, but it's doing the same thing. It's just not as clever about it, right? So I'm not sure it's much better. Exactly. So when it comes down to it, ambient computing, it's not about the tools you use. It's about computing environments that are shaping you, that are moving you. So you're not using the tool in a way. The tool is kind of using you ostensibly to your own benefit. And that's an important point. Sometimes we want things to be nudging us toward the better things to do. So this isn't all negative. Ambient computing isn't just a negative. But sometimes it's about what's best for, say, a tech company. Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it's about what's best for us, but sometimes it's about what's,
well, I think too, like it's one of those things where this kind of thing primes us for those dark patterns that they like to throw into everything. Right. And getting used to it really comes back to a magic trick. Like if you know how magic works, there are certain sets of things that you do in a magic trick. And one of those things is the confidence. You buy the audience's confidence in you. And so you'll always see a magician midway through a trick, they'll stop and they'll say something like, oh, make sure you're paying attention to this. And it feels like they're giving you an in. And what they're really doing is they're teaching you can trust me. You can trust what I'm saying. And that's the thing that really bothers me about these, is because they fit very solidly into that category where it's for your benefit, but it's priming you for that later ability to throw an ad at you and you not feel like they're spying on you.
Right.
Like they're literally watching you. No, we just, we're trying to help you out and you look like you do these kinds of things. So here's an ad about those kinds of things that you normally do.
And many people we want to be nice. And so you've done something nice for me. So I'll be nice to you. I'll listen to your ad. Right. There's a tendency to try to kind of treat the technology as, well, it's a back and forth, a give and take among equals, when in fact it's just a dumb piece of plastic and metal. You don't need to treat it nicely. There's an element of how do I want to say this? Well, I lost the train of thought, but I'll come back to it. But there's, I know it's beaming into my brain and making me forget.
Your watch can't help you.
I know. Tell me what I was going to say. Oh, Duolingo. That's what I was going to bring up. My watch just told me. No, do it. My daughter, who's 13, was telling me she's doing, I don't know, Spanish or French or something in Duolingo, and she talks about how often it guilts her. It's trying to guilt her into coming back and doing another. I'm very lonely. It seems playful, but it's super manipulative.
Very much so, yeah.
And that's another element of it. So sometimes it's something we want. We want, like, if we're trying to lose weight, and we're using like food logging software, we want it to bug us to log our food so that we're being aware of how much we're eating. So we're like, okay, that's a good thing. But then there's the other ones that are kind of priming us for, as you said, the dark patterns. So what do we got here? We get technology that's always operating in the background. That's always sensing. It listens. It knows location. It sees our behavior. Senses our behavior, and even anticipates our needs before we express them.
Yeah, and these I think are the ones that we have to put up with to some degree, and the more we can be aware of what we are engaging with in this way, the more we can be aware of the passive things that we're around, the better off we're going to be. And and that really comes down to, like, you need to know your phone. You need to know what your phone is doing and what it's communicating with as you're walking around. So if your phone has the ability to turn off a search for Wi-Fi feature, which most of them do now, they've been required to for a while. Turn it off. Do turn off the search for Wi-Fi feature, because it's not in and of itself giving up any of your information, but it is receiving information that then can be used by other things to make decisions about you. So, for example, when you're walking by one of those digital signs that is always flipping ads and things like that, they are giving off some kind of signal that your phone can receive, so that they have a Wi-Fi thing that's operating. Your phone receives an update to say, hey, you could connect to this Wi-Fi. Now, you're not going to, because that would be stupid.
It's a billboard that's not connected to the internet, right?
So it's ridiculous. You don't want to do that. But now the name of that billboard has been entered into the log of Wi-Fis that you have seen, and an ad company can check that log if you've given it access to your wireless, to your Wi-Fi signals. It can check that, see that you were by this billboard, see what time you were by this billboard, and then track what kind of ads were on there, and then show you one of those ads in repetition on your device. None of that is illegal. None of that is even unethical. And in fact, those companies do not want to know who you are. They want that completely anonymous because they don't want to get in trouble for that. They don't care who you are. They just want to know that they got their ad in front of you twice that day. And they can verify that because you walk by that Wi-Fi signal and the ad came through on your Amazon cookies or whatever, whichever browsing system they put it through at. But they can verify that ad came to you twice. And it's not even you specifically. It's just we got 2 impressions on this number of users in the day. And that's it. So just being aware of that kind of stuff is important. And wherever you can, try and prevent it.
Right. And to be explicit, folks, like every Wi-Fi base station is unique. And so just the fact that your phone doesn't have to connect to it, but sees it, it puts you in a place. It locates you geographically. And so because all those Google, like, for example, the Google mapping cars that have been driving through every street in America and frankly, the world, the past, 15 years, they're not just taking photos. They were also sensing and recording and logging every Wi-Fi base station in range as it went by, not connecting to it, not doing anything nefarious per se, just the fact of it. Here's a base station. This is how it identified itself. This is where it was. And that's it. Boom. And now that it knows when someone's has their phone has been near this is where they were. And even remember during COVID, we had this, they set up this system where phones could sense other phones. And so if you got COVID, it could tell all these other phones had been around you in proximity. Now, at the time, like they had to assure all of us that they weren't going to use that. They weren't going to connect those identifications with individuals. But it just shows that technology is there. They could do this. So it's something to be aware of. So,
and I think ultimately there's 2 different companies that are not 2 different companies, but 2 different kinds of companies that are behaving this way. There are the ad companies for whom it is really bad to have your personally identifiable information. They do not want to know who you are. They just want general information about you. Since you have this kind of phone and you go to these kinds of places, you're probably a male between this age and of this ethnicity. That's roughly the amount of information that they want. And then they can, put different ads in front of you based on where you've been. But there are increasingly other companies that are very, very interested in identifying you as an individual and placing you places. And the amount of cameras that are out there with facial recognition and identification that's the troubling one. Those are the ones that are getting a little scary.
And they can glean so much information about you just based on what seems like very little data. There's so much. We talked time and time again about shadow profiles and that sort of thing. Now, I want to be clear. Ambient computing isn't just that. That's just one aspect of it. And it's really on the scarier edge of ambient computing. There are other kinds of ambient computing that are more benign, as I've been saying. So I want to kind of make sure that we're clear on that. So you have, and then the contrast is interactive technology, which is I click, it responds. Ambient technology, it acts without explicit request. It's technology that we own, that's operating kind of on its own, autonomously, if you will. Not completely, but essentially. Right. So it brings up some ethical issues. So the first one is consent without awareness. Traditional consent assumes awareness, deliberation, and choice. So I'm aware that something wants to interact with me or is operating in my presence or operating in a way to interact with me. Deliberation means I have a chance to think about it, to consider it, that I'm not pushed. I think like when you go to you buy a car, you need to have awareness that that this is the car you want and all the details about it. Then you're given a chance to deliberate, to think about it. I'll sleep on it. No salesman ever wants you to sleep on it. And then you're given a choice. You want to or you don't want to. But ambient systems sort of undermine this cycle of consent by always being on by default. So, for example, you've given your consent, quote unquote, in one of those long end user license agreements that no one ever reads, right?
Right.
You just, I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand that. I'm just going to click OK because I really want to use this software or this piece of technology. And you've agreed to make it a legal agreement. How binding that is, I think, is still pretty dubious. Honestly, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know. But frankly, if no one ever reads any of these things, it's pretty much acknowledge it. No, that it's not really possible for a layperson to read and understand these. So, but that aside, we are inferring data from your behavior, not from statements. Because you've clicked that button, we're inferring that you've given consent. That's not exactly consent.
Yeah, or just turning on your Wi-Fi and leaving it on to search for open signals. That's
right.
and not explicitly having like a button somewhere else in the UI to turn it off, right? To turn that feature off. It's annoying. Like, it's annoying that they do that kind of stuff, and that is consent enough for this kind of stuff to keep going. Right.
And can you give meaningful consent to something you hardly even notice that you're doing? That a product that you've used, or a feature that they don't call out to you even.
Right. Yeah. That's so technologically complicated in the way it functions, or that's so abstract to the end user that they are unwitting participants because they don't know, like the thing about the ads that I was just talking about. That's something that most people don't know about, and it's there. And it's funny because it reads like, and this is, I was talking to you about before the show about mentioning Philip Dick, but this is the great spot to do it. So if you've seen Minority Report, or if you've seen Blade Runner, or read any Philip Dick, this sounds very much like his world, where you could walk by a billboard and it would scan your eye, know who you are, convert the ad into something that's for you specifically. Everything is charged. That's really kind of the world that we're in. And so people have taken some of that stuff as like an instruction manual instead of a warning.
Right. But the Matrix is a warning, not an instruction manual. Yeah,
exactly.
Right. Yeah. Right. Or Blade Runner, or Minority Report, or all of this. Yeah. Philip K. Dick things. Yeah. This wasn't an idea for the marketers to take advantage of.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that I wanted to, key things to take away is technological inevitability is not moral consent. And so what do I mean by technological inevitability? People often say things like, well, that's just the way the world is now, right? This is, you can't live without a smartphone. Everything tracks you. You got no choice. If you want to function, you have to accept it. And there's some truth to those things, but it creates a mindset that says, because the technology is widespread or hard to avoid, using it equals agreeing to it. Like, I have to use a smartphone to survive in the 21st century. That doesn't mean I agree to all the ways that a smartphone can be used by others. So there's a kind of a fatalism that can occur. And so that technological inevitability doesn't give us the ability to consent. And in moral theology, consent requires knowledge, freedom, and intention, right? And if you don't have full knowledge, if you're not fully free, and you don't fully intend, you're not giving a consent to a thing. Yeah. So when the technology, smartphone, or whatever the technology happens to be, whether it's smart speaker or whatever, if it's required in order to do your work, or to go to the bank, or to communicate, or get government services, or go to school, or health, your freedom is limited. Then you're not fully free, because you have to use these things to survive the modern world. So it's important to understand that just because you're using these things, you've not given away your freedom.
And in some cases, we need to be more vocal about refusing these things and making companies for example, it was really hard for me to find a phone. I just upgraded my phone. I ended up compromising a lot in what I wanted because the two phones that I really want don't work on the carrier that I have. One, I would have to pay massive tariffs to import it from another country. And it's just like, you know, and the two things that I really wanted off of these phones were physical switches to turn off my microphone and my GSM, my connection, my wireless connection, so Wi-Fi. So not just an airplane mode that I click a button digitally inside the thing, but an actual physical button that I can switch to turn off the stuff. And the fact that that does not exist on pretty much any phone that you can buy off the shelf in the US is just amazing to me.
Right. I mean, even the Echo has a manual shutter still, like the ones that have cameras on them. There's still a manual shutter that you can flip shut, which on the one I own now, that it has been shut like since the 5 seconds after I took it out of the box and has never been open in the several years since. In fact, I've totally disconnected it now. We're actually thinking of getting rid of all of our Echoes because they've become less useful over time and annoyingly presenting ads. You know, maybe you want to buy this stuff. So that's really what's driving us out. Not the dystopian, you know, listening to everything we say. I suppose.
It's so funny because the cyber end of the world is so banal. Like I just keep coming back to that. Like just how
it's
ridiculous
not like
it
the
is.
movies where the robots are marching down the street with laser guns to shoot us all. Nope, they're just annoying the heck out of us to our end.
That's it.
So I wanted to kind of give an example of a moment when technological inevitability leads to a loss of free consent. For example, if your employer requires that you have an app that tracks your location, there are some people who have that. Installing it may be necessary to keep your job. That doesn't mean you morally approve of your location being surveilled by your employer. Your consent in this case is then constrained, not fully free. That applies to mandatory biometric authentication, always on workplace tools, school platforms that collect student data. There's all kinds of ways that we're not fully free, not fully consenting to things. So why this matters spiritually. If people believe that inevitability equals consent, then there's two unhealthy responses that can happen. One, moral numbness. Well, everyone does it, so it's got to be fine. And
right.
That kind of shuts down your conscience. Two, scrupulosity. I use this system, so I'm cooperating with evil.
Right.
And you know that I've heard this sort of thing, not exactly that, but you know, the healthy middle position. I may use a system out of necessity while still judging its harms, limiting my exposure, and advocating for better alternatives. Yeah. So I'm using it. It doesn't mean I'm okay with it, and I will continue to push either through my purchasing dollars or my voice or my vote to make the things better. And that's a solid Catholic moral approach to many problems, and in this case to here. So really this is the first issue. This is the consent without awareness. But the second ethical issue is agency versus automation. So when the systems are predicting your routes and your purchases and your habits and your health behaviors, they're subtly moving us from choosing our way through life to confirming our way through life. Those are two different things. When you choose a path, you're in control. When you confirm the path that's been chosen for you, you're not in control anymore.
Yeah, right. It's the other thing that's choosing. It's fun too. Like when you move, this becomes very apparent to you because
when you, move to a new house,
physically move to a new house.
Yeah.
When you go through a move, this becomes very apparent to you because you realize, oh my gosh, I am not learning how to get around my new space the way that I knew my old space because I'm relying on the system to tell me, because it's easier just to punch the address in for something that I don't know where it is and go to it. And that's I feel for our kids because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the people who are in the generation that are coming up with all of this technology and don't even get in a car knowing how to read a map before they go somewhere, right?
Right.
They just assume
Follow
that
the
the map's
GPS.
going to be there. Yeah,
Yeah.
just follow the GPS. That's it. And that to me is very telling because it's recommending routes. And it's not far from, if it's not already at the point where they are guiding traffic patterns so that if there is a backup somewhere, they will use alternate routes. And then once an alternate route gets backed up, they'll use another alternate route. And so now you've got a system, a computer system guiding traffic and making decisions about traffic that's not really what its primary purpose is, but at the same time it is. Like,
right. And you could see the benefit of having more guidance because frankly, traffic is bad in most places. And so having a system that's like, hey, there's not much traffic over there, go that way. There are days when I was commuting in and out of Boston, I would have welcomed such a thing. But there are also plenty of times where I get in the car and I often put the GPS thing on anyway, even though I know exactly where I'm going and how I'm going to get there because I like to get the time, you know, how I know it's a weird quirk. But it'll say, you know, take it right here. No, take it right here. Take it right. No, that is not the best way to go. Trust me. I know what I'm doing.
Right.
But if you talk to anyone who's say Gen X or older, we remember a time when you had to know how to get places. Like, and if you didn't know, you had to get a map of it somehow. And you had to follow this map and you had to know how to read a map sometimes while you were driving,
right?
You know, or at least have the directions ahead of time. Take a left at the third light and then 3 streets down, you're going to take another right. You know, like you had to know these things or have people's phone numbers. You had to know.
Right.
I would question anyone. Do you know the phone numbers of more than 2 or 3 people in your life? I can tell you the phone number off the top of my head of my wife's phone. I'm not. I can't tell you. I can't tell you the phone numbers of any of my kids' phones.
Nope.
If I lost my phone and I didn't have access to the contact app on my computer, I wouldn't be able to call them. As a Gen Xer, that's kind of bizarre to me. When I was a kid, I knew my 5 best friends' phone numbers, you know, and the phone number
still have them up here.
Right. And my high school locker combination, you know, I mean, you knew you had to remember things, you knew things, and now we don't. We are kind of extensions of the systems in that way.
Yeah, and it's challenging here too because I'm very much a proponent of the never commit to memory something that you can just look up. So that's, you know, I do like that mentality. At the same time, don't use your phone as your memory. It's not, that's not a safe use of the phone. Right.
And so what's the big deal here? Well, you know, when we're constantly letting the systems nudge us and move us, and we're just confirming their choices on our behalf, it risks a kind of moral atrophy. What you're doing is you're priming and training yourself to let others make choices for you, even in non-technological things. We tend to become the way we act, and that becoming spreads into other areas of our life. So if you do this in your technology parts of your life, you might start doing this in other relational aspects of your life as well. And you're going to start, you know, operating out of habit without reflection. You're going to act without intention. And these are not good things in many ways. Go ahead.
You stop asking questions. I think that's the really big thing, because so much of what technology wants is immediacy, where there is a right now component to everything that the technology does. Why don't you stand up right now and you know, take a walk? Why don't you take a look at this ad that I have for you? And there's not a way to, like, you know, just put it off for later and, hit a snooze button on it. It's very much like an in your face right now. And we stop, like you mentioned earlier, taking that moment to sleep on it and really step away from the decision, because there's just this urgency to everything that's happening.
That's an important part of this. There's a sense of urgency all the time. Mm-hmm. And that's another bad thing. If not everything is urgent, but the technology wants us to feel like this urgency. It creates anxiety in you, and you're constantly on alert, when you're constantly being prodded. Man, I have, notifications, like I have alarms and things for various things I need. And I have that Do app, which, it warns me every 5 minutes if I don't tell it I've done the thing, right? Or I can snooze it. And I tell you, it gets so annoying after a while. My kids, we have this rule that they have to set when they start using their screens, like when they start playing video games, they have to set a timer. They can only use it for a certain amount of time. And when the timer goes off and it just keeps going and going, I'm in the other room, but I can hear it. And it's like, turn the dang thing off. Like, it's just, so. And it's like, I don't know why it enrages me so much. It creates so much anxiety in me to hear it going. But it's like, I think it's because I'm being prodded. It wants me to do a thing. But now, this isn't exactly new. When I was a kid, when the phone would ring in the house, because you had a house phone then, you ran to answer it. Like, to let a phone ring without being answered, you could. You kind of twitch a little while it's ringing, like that idea of like, you just let it ring. Just don't answer the phone. Just let it go to the voicemail or let it go to the answering machine. But you got to pick it up.
Right.
Because it was calling to you. I mean, so this isn't a new thing necessarily. It's not a smartphone era thing. This sort of thing has been with us for a while.
But I think there's so many more of them now. Like, if you think about your house when you were a kid, part of the reason that was the way it was is because it was exciting and it was uncommon.
Who could it be? Because you'd have no idea. Right.
And there's always a person on the other end of the line, right, that's calling you. Even if it's a salesperson, it's still a person. Right. And today, so often we have these things buzzing for us that are non-human, that aren't even worth our time, or that are a complete waste of our time. And they're still, like, it's the Alexa turning yellow when there's an ad that's right there waiting for you. And it's like, why am I asking this thing to give me an ad? That's ridiculous.
I have a notification for you. The ones that drive me crazy is I have like a smart home app, to control a light switch or something like that. And it pops up notifications of sales. No, you do not exist on my phone as an app to do this. No, your app is there to notify me when I need to do something with a light. Not to sell me more things. I don't want those notifications, but I can't be granular enough to turn off the ads. And Akara, you in SwitchBot, I'm looking at you guys. All right. I love your products, but that's really annoying to me. So, the question arises though out of this agency versus automation, which is, if a system is nudging me constantly to do a thing, even a good thing, am I still practicing virtue, or am I just outsourcing it? So if a system is constantly nudging me to, go to the gym, or bugging me not to pick up the snack or whatever it is, because I have to log it into the thing, and that's so annoying. Is that virtue, or is it just outsourcing virtue? Now, I'm not saying it's bad. That's a genuine question, because it's a good one way or the other, right? I'm not taking that snack, or I'm actually going to exercise, or doing the good thing. But there's another level to it, where am I also building up the virtuous aspects of me? Am I building up the parts of me that need to be able to practice virtue? I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm saying that.
And I think you're onto something though, because if you think about something like a scapular, where you've got this uncomfortable thing that's designed to make you pray, like that's the entire point of it, is right to be uncomfortable. You take it off every night, and you put it back on in the morning.
Mhm.
Whereas with our technology, we don't have that moment of choosing and reflecting on why we're continuing to do this. We've just automated it out and kind of outsourced it to
Right.
something else to do it for us.
I mean, we could
Absolutely.
we could create a new habit where we do periodically reflect on how we're using the technology. And this kind of could jump back to the Digital Sabbath episode we had a few weeks ago, where we talked about taking a break from our technology as a regular thing, like a digital Sabbath, but also to be intentional about it. So, and that kind of leads us to the next thing I want to talk about, which is the interior life in silence. The traditional Christian anthropology assumes interiority, silence, and reflection, the opportunity for retreat. Now that looks different for people in different walks of life, different vocations. A priest, a religious, lives in silence and reflection. I mean, that's their vocation. When you're the parent of children, silence is a remembered thing. Often, I once had silence in my life. Maybe I will again, and probably all too soon. And but you do need to have those opportunities to step away and enter into the quiet, and to reflect, and to hear, and to not, because when you go to pray, there's always the ambient tech is always there, buzzing. Even if you're just like praying a rosary and my watch buzzes, something's trying to get my attention. I get a notification. Do I turn my wrist and look or not? Right. It's just a second, that sort of thing. And it's, you've got to take time to discern for yourself. How is it you want to do that? Like for some people, it's I take off my watch, I take my phone, and they go in another room, and I sit down over here and I pray, and there's no echoes, there's no speakers, there's nothing in this space that will buzz or beep or bing and flash to get my attention. That's a thing you could do. I know, like when I go to mass, I have focus mode set up on I've said this before on my phone. It blocks all notifications. Nothing can get through. I don't want my phone or my watch to do anything while I'm praying. Nothing at all. And that's important to me. Because silence is important. Because silence is the space where God speaks to your heart. Yeah. We all need that moment. We have less silence than we've ever had before in our lives. This is one of the reasons why I love camping, honestly.
Right.
To get out to the woods.
Really, because there is an inherent removal of the signals and kind of the assumption that you're not going to be around signals. So even if you're not far enough away to avoid the phone signal, you can just turn your phone off and say, I was camping. Right. Exactly. People are normally okay with that. So. Yes. We're in the woods. There's a fire. Stare at the fire. Just like it's almost like in your house, you need a Faraday cage to get away from everything, though, because it's just so prevalent. And I'm one of those. I'm one of those people that has like a high sensitivity to electrical signals. So when I'm in a place where there are a lot of electronics, I can definitely experience the amount of just ambient kind of junk that's flying around. And that another, again, part of the reason I love camping is going out and getting away from all of that. But I wonder how much that affects us too when we're trying to find that peace, because I'm aware of it doesn't mean that I'm the only one that's experiencing it. I'm sure that people that aren't aware of it are experiencing it just as much as I am. And so, I feel like there does need to be some intentionality to it. And if you don't think that you feel this, just wait until the next time that the power's out and realize how you feel, even in the absence of air conditioning. That's whatever, but just in the absence of every electronic that you have around you on a normal basis, it's a very different feeling. If you're old enough, think back to 2001 after 9/11, and just by a parallel, what it was like when there were no planes in the sky and nobody was really driving around anywhere. How quiet just even an urban environment could be.
when there's no aircraft and people are kind of hunkered down in their homes. Actually, COVID was kind of that way in the beginning, just how kind of quiet it got outside when hardly anybody was out driving and that sort of thing. It's not. I'm not saying it's the same thing. I'm saying it's by analogy. You notice it by its absence,
right?
But you don't notice it until it's absent.
Very much so.
Yeah. So this is our pitch for going out into the woods, folks. Just not near me. Like, go over there. Like, give me some space.
There's plenty of woods.
There's plenty of woods for everyone. Go hang out by Bigfoot. So what is the practical moral response we can have? Like, and I want to emphasize practical, because for the vast majority of us, we can't give up our phones. We can't give up our computers. This is the Secrets of Technology podcast. Right. So we're techie sort of people here. So we're not saying tech is bad. So it's not about rejecting technology, but create intentional friction in your technology use. Don't make it so easy to just have the things like you want the things, like for example, like how it bugs me. Like, I don't want that to go away. The alarms bugging me, because honestly, that means that I've stopped paying attention, that I've just given up.
Right.
You want to create some intentional friction in your technology use so that you're constantly aware of it. You're wary of what it could do, and you're using it intentionally. I think those are some aspects of it. We can get into some concrete examples, too.
I think doing little things that make that bring us back to the world where everything wasn't always present and always on is really important. So, look up your destination before you sit down in your car, get a sense of the entire set of directions, and then do as much as you can without your GPS. Leave it in, but do as much as you can without your GPS. And I think that's really because otherwise you are literally on autopilot. You've just completely turned everything over to the GPS, and you're just watching it and following it like a video game. You're
essentially the Tesla's full self-driving vehicle, except you're the machine. Right. Plan your route ahead of time. Right. Sit down, look at a map, and say, how do I want to go to get there? Now, it may not be the most efficient time-wise or whatever, but and you can adapt. You can, it's like if it nudges you to go, like think about it. Don't just, it wants me to take this exit, I'm going to take this exit. Think about, because it's not always right, for one thing. I've been there. I've taken the exit and it's been the wrong exit. So it can get it wrong. But be intentional. Don't just, it's prompting me to turn, I'm going to turn. No, actually, I don't want to. And I tell you this was just a GPS specific thing. There is a route out of my neighborhood that the GPS always wants to go. And I'm like, that is not better, because if you go the way the GPS wants to go, you sit at a light and there's traffic over there. This way is much faster. Just go down this road here. And I always go that way.
But see, I wonder, does it take you by a gas station if you're going the other direction? And that's my big question about GPS.
No, this one is just, it doesn't. Maybe it's the Dunkin' Donuts, but it could be, I don't know. It's a Boston version of that. No. And one thing interesting is Apple has included the new iOS versions. It's going to learn your preferred routes. So it actually, which is better. You're in charge. As far as you know, look into it. Make sure you're actually it's not dark patterning you into following its prompts. Right. But the other things you could do, concrete things, you can disable the always listening features. So, for example, how do I do that on an Echo or a HomePod or something like that? Because you have to use the wake word, right, to wake it up. You could disable the always listening, and where you have to tap it to get it to wake to hear you. And that way, it's not accident. Like, I don't know how many times I've seen it just light up, like as if it heard me say something. And it recorded whatever I was saying because it thought I said Alexa. Sorry, folks. And then whatever I was saying at the time, it's recorded. So you could turn that off. When the phone, this is usually on the phone, asks, an app asks for, can it give it location services? If it doesn't, if the function of the app that you're using, it's not obvious why it needs location, then it doesn't need location. Don't just give location to everybody.
Yeah.
If it does need location, like it's a weather app, for instance, only while using, so that when you're not using the app, it's not tracking your location. That's another one.
And then don't give it a widget, because that's another way that it kind of like, okay, so
it's always using.
It's always using the app. Always using the location.
I know the iPhone has several things where you can obscure location, you not give it tracking permissions. There are some privacy related aspects to that as well. I'm not going to go into detail on that here. Maybe we can come back to that at some other point. But there are some privacy related aspects of that. But on some of the other things we talked about, schedule some quiet hours, times when you're not available, when you're not responding to any nudges, notifications, or anything. You take off your watch, you leave your phone in the other room, and it doesn't even have to be like prayer. It could be just reading a book or even watching a TV show, like just watch a movie or something. But don't do that second screen thing that everyone does, including me, where you're not really watching. You're kind of, it's on the side and you're looking at your phone or your computer or tablet or something in addition. Set that stuff aside for a while.
Especially when you're eating with people. Like when you're eating with people, be present with people. Put the phone away, not just down, not just in your pocket. Definitely not just in your pocket with the buzzer on so that you're thinking about the notifications the whole time, but put it somewhere else. Right.
I know that like some people have like a basket on the counter where at dinner time, all the phones go in the basket, things like that. Yeah. That's definitely a thing. And you could even, if you have the space, designate a tech-free room in your house, a prayer closet, if you will. Perhaps it doesn't have to be a big room, but just a small space, even that's free of technology, has no smart speakers, no screens, no nothing, and it's a place to get away, or times. And this is the digital Sabbath we were talking about. And so it's not just, these aren't just hacks, like life hacks. It's stewardship. Your stewardship of your life, of your moral responsibility, of your consent. You're stewarding your own virtue in that sense. So, I think that's a good place to sort of wrap things up. Unless you have any other thoughts you wanted to share.
No, I think that's good. I think there's a lot of other places you could go with this, being concerned about surveillance and all of the other pieces. But I think from a personal and spiritual point of view, the thing that you really want to think about is just being aware of the fact that this is there is really important, and that you are being sold ads very often. You're being given all of these inputs. I had a priest a long while ago said that it's kind of frustrating being a priest with the younger generation today, because what you end up with are people that know the golden arches better than they know a cross. And it's a truism, because it's something that the advertising has gone so deep into our psyche that we have to seek out the images that we want to be part of our mentality. They're not going to find us, and we have to be very careful of all the ones that are finding us.
Just the insidiousness of advertising. My kids, when they were little, the only thing they really watched was football on Sundays or NASCAR races, like sports. We watched sports. At the age of like 7, 8, 6, 7, 8, if I said discount out loud, they'd all go double check which I forget even which insurance company it is, but it was in some insurance company. And it's like, wow, and they don't watch TV.
Right.
But it's so insidious. It's so they're immersed in it. We're just marinating in this stuff. So it's, be aware. And I think being aware is half the way to being in control.
Right.
So many of us are just not aware that this is even part of it. And the thing I'm concerned with, and we'll end with this, is I don't want to buy into the whole, like, my phone is a surveillance device and I'm constantly there. There's someone on the other end listening to me. That's
right.
We're not saying that. We're saying, like, it doesn't have to be that level of insidiousness for it to be something you need to be aware of. And I think that's what we're saying. So as we're moving into Lent, I think this is a good opportunity to practice a little virtue, building up your personal virtue and taking control of these sorts of things so that you're not being controlled by them and you're having a little more agency in your life. So, yeah. All right. So we will probably come back to this, as I always say when we finish these segments. There's always more to say. So if folks have anything they want to share in this vein or any input they want to give, any questions they have, we'd love to hear you. You can email us at technology@sqpn.com. So we want to take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Annie D, Stephanie D, Ann K, Todd H, and Rosemary P. Their generous donations at GiveStarQuest.com make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting GiveStarQuest.com. We do have a few headlines we want to go through. The first one is one you may have heard of. You may have heard recently about, there's no RAM available for computers because all of these big AI data centers have sucked up all the supply. Well, now you're not going to get any hard drives either, because Western Digital has announced that they've sold out all of their capacity, hard drive capacity, for all of 2026. All of the hard drives they had for 2026 are already gone.
We're in February.
It's Great. February. Yeah.
Good job.
So all of these super AI data centers are just taking all of the tech.
And this is all the stuff I want too. Like I just rebuilt our server for our kids, and it's half the cost was the RAM. Like just the RAM. And then I was like, oh yeah, and I'll just put a network storage on there. Nope, I am not putting a network storage on my network at this point.
And one of the things that's interesting aspects, like just Western Digital, they, it's like, well, how can they do this to their customers? Well, the consumer sales, enterprise sales is like 85% of their income. 5% is to regular Joes like you and me. Right. Like we are not their primary customer. And that's part of the problem. Is what gets me though is like, yeah, but in the end, all those data centers, if we don't have computers, those data centers are pretty useless.
Yeah, we're not getting anything from them.
So first it was GPUs, then it was RAM. Now it's going to be hard drives. Yeah. It's a good thing you don't need keyboards. You can have a keyboard. Right.
So, all the user interface stuff is still up for grabs.
Right. Well, eventually we're just going to talk to our chatbots, and we're not going to need screens or computers anyway.
Talk about these always on dark pattern kind of things. How many times I'm having to turn AI off. I don't want AI in this. I don't want AI in that.
I tell you, my webcam that we use, it has like these AI features where it will automatically follow, and if I gesture, it will do these things. And I constantly have to turn it off, and it turns itself back on. I don't ever turn it back on. So our second headline, Pat shared this, and this is something that folks be aware of. Criminals are using Zillow to plan break-ins, not just Zillow, but Redfin and other real estate websites. So if you've purchased a home recently, or have listed a home recently, Zillow, Redfin, other real estate sites will have photos, the detailed photo tours of your whole house online. And they've found, people breaking in, they've used these to case the homes, to see the layout, where the windows are, all this other stuff. And so what they're recommending that you do is that you go to these various sites, Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, and you can claim your home. They all have the ability where if it's your house, you can claim it. And then with all of them, you can remove the photos, the interior photos. So, and I'll have a link to a Kim Commando article in the show notes that talks about it for Zillow, Redfin, Realtor.com, Google Street View, all of those. But it's pretty dystopian.
Yeah. Yeah, I worry about, like, with mine, it's one of the cookie cutter types, so you can basically get the blueprint anywhere. So you can make assumptions from there, and the assumptions are going to be pretty accurate because most of the spaces are designed for certain kinds of use, right?
Right, exactly. Right.
So
this is a bedroom. This is a bathroom. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And if the neighbor's house is the same as yours, if they don't take down their photos, they know the layout of your home, right? And the article talks about how it implies, but doesn't outright say that famous case that's going on right now as we're recording about the Nancy Guthrie, the mother of the woman who's on the Today Show. I forget her name, Savannah Guthrie, maybe. That they think her home's photos are all on there, as well as like Kim Commander was saying, it took her 30 seconds to find her home address and cell phone number on a people search site. It's a whole nother thing you should be aware of and removing your information from. So then she pasted her address into Zillow and saw photos of the house and then matched that with a video from a home tour that had been done on the Today Show. Now, most of us are not going to have our home tour done on the Today Show, but there are videos, home tours that realtors do. So, and if it's in a home that's furnished, like your current home that you're living in and all your stuff is there, that gives a nice inventory to anyone to see what nice stuff you have. So
they know which rooms specifically they want to get to.
Right. And how to get into those rooms. That has a nice window that is shaded by a bush, et cetera, et cetera. So something to think about. And then finally, last one is the Vatican and Microsoft. They keep working together, don't they? Vatican and Microsoft. Have you noticed that? Yep. Somebody's got an in over there. So the Vatican and Microsoft launch a digital font, supposed to non-digital, I suppose, inspired by Michelangelo's handwriting, called Michelangelos, and it will be available in the latest versions of Microsoft Office,
that's really cool.
Kind of
I think that's it's pretty neat.
Yeah, so it's based on the handwriting, the recognizable handwriting style of Michelangelo, who is best known for designing the Dome of
Sistine Chapel,
the Sistine Chapel, the Dome of St. Peter's, and all that stuff. So it's kind of a fun little thing. I'm not sure I'd use it to lay out my corporate TPS reports, but it'd be fun to have.
You can sign your name.
Yeah.
Sign your name in Michelangelo. Just see what it look like.
Oh, I might use it. Maybe I'll use that font on the artwork for Secrets of Sacred Art. I could do that.
There you go. That would be really cool.
I'll have to see if they'd like me to do that. So just a few headlines. Check them out. We'll have the links in our show notes. And that brings us to our picks of the week. And Thomas, why don't you give us your pick this week?
So my pick this week is kind of it's one of these. I want to stick to this sort of patterns thing that we're talking about here, where it's the always on stuff to be aware of. When you click in your URL bar and you type in to search on your browser, there is a search engine that is attached to the search from your URL bar up there. So if you've gotten used to just typing in, a random question into your URL bar and it gives you a list of sites, check which search engine you're using, and that is changeable. That's something that you can actually go up and change. And I mentioned on one of the other podcasts that we did about about some options that you have there. One that I've landed on that I really like a lot is the search engine called Ecosia, and they are a for-profit company, but they use their profits to plant trees, do nature conservancy type things. So definitely in that vein of companies that are doing good with the benefits that they have from the proceeds that they get. You can switch on most browsers. Ecosia is one of the ones that's available, so you can go and switch your default search engine to Ecosia and then use it, and that's great because then they get the proceeds from that. The results are pretty solid. It's not as intrusive as Google always is with trying to give you like super high results. Know that you are still getting ads, so this is not one that you're avoiding the ads entirely, but they do have privacy promises and some stopgaps in place to make sure that your identity isn't being overly used to try and sell you stuff. So recommend checking them out. They also have all of their papers for all of the stuff that they're doing. So if you want to see where the money's actually going, they lay it all out for you.
Yeah, they have right on the front page of the website a link to every month what they've made and where the money has gone. To trees, to other climate impact, building search diversity, operational costs, taxes. They tell you exactly how they're spending their money. That's pretty cool. Google doesn't do that.
Nope.
I mean, I'm sure there's some corporate annual report somewhere on their website, but not right on the front page like this every month. So,
exactly.
Pretty cool. So I'm going to pick mine is something I've been talking about for some time. Now it's finally my official pick this week. And it's this cool little e-paper ebook reader called the XT E-Ink X4. And what this is it's a tiny little thing. It's the size of, how do I say, it's like a 3x5 card, really a Gen Xer now. So it's smaller than almost every smartphone out there. It's definitely smaller than my iPhone 17 Pro Max. And it even has a little magnet in the back. So the idea is that you're supposed to like magnetize it to the back of your phone, so you always have it with you. I don't do that, but that's kind of silly. But it's an e-ink reader, and it's free and open source. Not free and open source. It's it's open in that I can put any EPUB book on it. Any book that's available in EPUB. I can go to the Project Gutenberg, or what was the one? Standard eBooks, I think, was the one I mentioned a few weeks ago, which is great. All these beautifully formatted ebooks, including a lot of G.K. Chesterton that are in the public domain. If you happen to have other EPUBs books, like ones that maybe you've gotten from, say, the iBook Store, the Apple iBook Store, which you have EPUB format, or you have old Kindle books that were converted to EPUB at some point for your own personal backup purposes because you've paid for that. You could put those on there. And so it's this small little reader that you can have with you all the time. It's smaller than any Kindle, but the type is big enough. Now, the native software that comes with it is not great. They're getting a little better. They've been improving it. But there's an open source project called Crosspoint Reader, which is basically replaces the firmware on the device with new, much better firmware. And they're constantly updating. It's really neat because the way you update it is you can connect it via Wi-Fi. You can connect it via a USB-C cable to your computer, but you can also connect it via Wi-Fi and open up a web page in your Chrome browser. It has to be Chrome, and update the firmware over the air like that to it. So you can. It's super easy to update, and it's really, really nice. It's got like 6 different buttons on it, so it's not a touchscreen like Kindle Paperwhite, which sometimes is annoying when I'm trying to read in bed and it's constantly changing pages because I'm trying to hold the darn thing by the very edges. But it has a bunch of buttons, and they all kind of do slightly different things. And once you figure out how they work, like there's a couple of rocker switches and other stuff like that. And once you figure out how it works, it becomes pretty intuitive. But it is so nice to have. Just sometimes I just want to have a little book in my pocket that isn't my phone. I hate reading books on my phone. This is why I own a Kindle, because the phone is constantly popping up notifications and other stuff like that. And the battery life is limited. Whereas e-ink readers are almost universally great battery life. But I love having it just this little device, so I don't have to carry a physical book because it's smaller than a physical book, and I can carry hundreds of books in this little 3x5 enclosure. And it is so really great to have. I don't use it all the time because the one thing it can't do is it can't sync with the Kindle. If I'm reading a book on my Kindle, I can't sync my progress with it. So I keep like books that are sort of evergreen on it. So like Chesterton and some other stuff like that. Arthur Ransom's Swallows and Amazons recently came into the public domain at the beginning of this year. And so I've put that on there because I'm going to enjoy rereading that. Stuff like that. So it is really and it's the best part, it's $69.
It's definitely value for them for the money you spend on it.
Right. I've been looking at phone size ebook readers for a while. Was it ebook reader? There's a couple of them out there, and they're all couple $100, $200, $250, and they're really nice. But that's just, I don't want to spend $200 on such a specialized thing. Right. $69, that's doable. So
that's buy one and get one for somebody else, and that's definitely a price range that I can get behind.
Right, exactly. And so I love the idea of just having this. This is small, and if I could just shove it in my pocket when I go out the door. I mean, you just to have it with me whenever I might need it. I mean, it is really a great little thing to have. So it's the XT Ink X4 e-reader with the Crosspoint Reader firmware. So those are our picks of the week, and that's it from us this time. We would love to know what you thought of any part of our discussion. You can do that by sending us an email to technology@sqpn.com. Visit the StarQuest Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. You'll find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at starquest.fm/TEC334. And of course, you can find previous episodes at sqpn.com/technology, including actually on that page that /technology, you'll find a listing of all of our picks of the week in reverse chronological order, meaning the newest ones are the top now, because Pat, after 7 years, said, could we reverse the order and make it easier to find things? I'm like, oh, what an idea. So I did that.
It's on an Airtable too, so it's really easy to kind of pop it out and do any searching that you need on it.
You can filter, you can search. There's all kinds of great. Airtable is great for that. Well,
I admit I jump in there most weeks. I jump in there before we do the picks of the week to make sure that whatever I'm picking wasn't in there.
Yeah, frankly, I think it gets the most use from the panelists and hosts of the show. Yeah. Be sure to follow the Secrets of Tech. We're in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, TuneIn, your favorite podcast app, or our YouTube channel, youtube.com/StarQuestMedia, where you should subscribe, comment, and hit the bell to make sure you get notifications of new episodes. Write a review wherever they let you write reviews of podcasts. Nice glowing review. 5 stars is always welcome. And of course, please share the podcast with your friends, including individual episodes that you think are valuable. I think today's was particularly good. I think the Digital Sabbath, they were always good, but I think they have there's some that have broad evergreen appeal. They're not limited to a particular moment in technology. So I would encourage you to share the show with others. In any case, until next time, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
It's been great.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to the Secrets of Technology on StarQuest. Here's another show on the StarQuest network you're sure to enjoy, The Secrets of Middle-earth. Find it wherever you can find podcasts or at sqpn.com/Middle-earth.